Good afternoon. What is a surprisingly warm, bright and sunny day? It is Thursday the 15th of February and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a package to unbox. So let's get this open. It's quite solidly packaged. Just got a knife along the edge. The packing tape used. I'm not quite there. And what I've got in here is actually two things. Best of White Dwarf Articles 3, I think I've done an unboxing of that, and Articles 2, I will have to check and come back to that, but surprisingly, what I didn't expect is a copy of White Dwarf number 89. So, let's have a look inside. I've not looked at the copy of this in years. I do have a copy, I was reading it at the time. This promises, Ravening Horde, 2,000 miniatures to be won in our Ravening Hordes competition, plus Warhammer, Call of Cthulhu, Robin Hood, and Killer Sheep. Oh yeah. So this was published in May of 1987. So I would have been 19 then. So yeah, we open up. Got a basically advert for orcs. Just orc champions, orc warrior orcs for your from Citadel Miniatures. You've got a lengthy list of contents. A nice editor's piece from the late Mike Brutton, much missed. And then we move on to Open Box, the review section. So we have actually reviews of a couple of Games Workshop products. So that includes the Rogue Trooper board game, Slaughter Margin, the scenario for the Judge Dredd role-playing game, Traveller 2300, the near future role-playing game set 300 years after the events of Twilight 2000, Game Designers Workshop, and then Heroes for War Games, set of rules. Then we move on to Weird World 2 Wordsley, which is a generic adventure from Strange Acorn Games. That one's quite a difficult one to find, and the first part I don't think I've ever seen. We've got Dungeons & Dragons Adventures, X11, A Saga of the Shadow Lord, and then Armada, fantasy board game. Don't think I've ever seen that. And then we have an advert for Virgin Game Centres. This is back at the time where Virgin, we had Virgin mega stores, and they sold not just records, but they would sell games. In this case, board games. And awesomeness, and then there's a section on this is awesome lies. I think this is like a section of rumours and news. We've got an advert for The Enemy Within and The Shadow of Bergenhafen, which have been relatively new. This would have been of course for part of the Enemy Within campaign for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which is arguably the best role-playing game campaign published in the UK. Certainly the first, and arguably, it's such a great story, and it's such an iconic a piece of role-playing game design that it's been revisited since, more recently by Cubicle 7. Lovely version. We're currently playing through that, and it's absolutely fantastic. We have Show and Tell Critical Mass, review column of Booked by Dave Langford, long-running column. We've got mail order with just stuff you can buy from Games Workshop, because White Dwarf was a Games Workshop magazine, and this is sort of like late in the run, before we get to that point where we have it taken over as a house magazine for effectively Citadel Miniatures and Games Workshop. And it's beginning to come in here. You've got a lot of content and support for Games Workshop, but there's a lot of other content in here. And even the content for Games Workshop is good, I'm sure. Official Warhammer Battle List, Ravening Horde supplement, nice illustrations of the miniatures in play, and then we've got Thread the Barbarian, long-running cartoon strip, poking fun at Conan the Barbarian. We have Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid, a list of phobias for Call of Cthulhu. They're nicely detailed there. Written by Carl Sargent, he would go on to work in other non-field connected with role-playing. And then we've got an advert for the Rogue Trooper board game, which I was reviewed earlier in Open Box. And then Games Workshop proudly announces the grand opening of Games Workshop Liverpool. And these would be really big events if you were, in the industry here in the UK. Because people would queue to go and see, because there would be special offers. And what it really meant was that you could get into, you would have an outlet for your games and role-playing content in your local city. I was never near one large enough. Mine was at least 50 miles away. And then we've got an advert for Fireland, the fantasy role-playing game for the Anywhere Universal Role-Play System. There were adverts for this over and over in White Dwarf and different magazines, and it never appeared. It's literally just I think the budget just went on, just on the on advertising for the game. Then we've got Do Troubleshooters Dream with Electric Sheep. Just check who this is by. Got a good idea. Yeah, it's Marcus Rowland. This is a scenario for Paranoia, based upon the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And if you were reading White Dwarf in the 1980s, you always look forward to content from Marcus L. Rowland. He wrote some fantastic supporting material for a wide variety of role-playing games, including Call of Cthulhu. Famously, he wrote the scenario On the Trail of the Loathsome Slime. Utterly the best pun title for any role-playing game supplement in the hobby. But also, he was responsible for introducing the concepts behind modern role-playing in Call of Cthulhu, with Cthulhu Now in issues 41, 42 of White Dwarf. So we've got the scenario there, we've got adverts for De Catherine's Daggerspell novel, and then White Dwarf subscriptions. I was a subscriber, but not at this point, because I could buy this off the shelves of my local newsagent. Then we've got Derek Troll, another long-running cartoon. For more adverts. Lovely, the adverts have just appeared. They bring back some memory. Mini advert for leisure games, and then Lone Wolf books, and then for Orc's Nest, and that's still there. And then Games World, which is another store which is not very far away from the original location for Games Workshop, the Hammersmith shop. And then we move on to, you have 2 minutes to say, this is an advert for Chainsaw Warrior, one of the first solo role-playing kind of board games. And then on let's have a look, see what it's actually called, just to make sure. On Eldenbergen, and this is a scenario for use with kind of a Robin Hood setting by Graham Staplehurst. I believe he probably would have revisited the Robin Hood myth and its ideas, and not just in the pages of White Dwarf earlier, but also with the Robin Hood supplement from Iron Crown. So you've got like a Robin Hood style scenario here in that medieval period, and this is with full stats for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And then you've got that competition for Ravening Hordes. Then Friends in High Places. We've got basically Deception, Intrigue in role-playing games. And this article actually looks very similar to the NPC articles you would get in the later role-playing game magazine from Scotland. whose name escapes me offhand, but it's the same artist. And then big advert for Stephen Games. This is what it would look like back in the day, with a big list of all the things you could buy from them. Advert for Snarf Quest, the collection of scenarios. The collection of the long-running cartoon strip that appeared in Dragon magazine. Heavy Metal looks at the miniatures, of course, available from at Games Workshop Still Miniatures, and includes sort of like a guide to painting and then it's followed by another advert for the Anywhen role-playing game, which never appeared. Onwards, upwards, character advancements in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, another article for the famous British role-playing game. And essentially one of the features of essentially character advancement and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is by career, and it's lovely detailed. You really feel like you're advancing and getting better. And then we have a look at the artwork of Brett. Just check. Brett Ewens, who would have drawn the artwork for Chainsaw Warrior and would have been a mainstay of 2000 AD at the time. And then a second generation of superheroes. This is for the MA3, the Ultimate Powers book. I mean, the thing is, so even at this stage, you've got Games Workshop, and then you've got TSR UK. But TSR UK is looking at White Dwarf and going, well, you know, that's the main vehicle for exposing, you know, the role-playing public, you know, the hobby in the UK to our books. So we've got adverts for that in there. White Dwarf back issues listing. Got different adverts, essentially various things. You've got makers of play-by-mail games, which were big at this time, different miniatures manufacturers and game stores. It's always interesting to go back and find and see whether those game stores are available. Some of them are not. I managed just to go to the one in Oxford a few years ago. It wasn't particularly interesting. And essentially, sort of like, we've got to look at Magic, Arcana, or Errata. Looking at Magic in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, with essentially the effect of the Unearthed Arcana, which brought so many changes upon the play of the game. So there's an overlook at that. Then we've got an advert for Hold It Right There, Citizen, the Judge Dredd role-playing game, with an advert there for Slaughter Margin, which was reviewed earlier in the supplement, in the magazine, in Open Box. And this is a couple of years after the Judge Dredd role-playing game from Games Workshop was published. There are divided opinions who basically hold that it's the only and classic Judge Dredd role-playing game you should try. I disagree fundamentally. I think it's got lots of charm, lots of detail, but the rules themselves leave much to be desired. But I've looked at all of the Judge Dredd role-playing games, and they've all got their pluses and minuses. More adverts for Citadel Miniatures. Look at the miniatures back in the day. And even with sort of like, you've actually got stats in here for the Cockatrice. If you go and get the Cockatrice miniature, you've got the stats there ready to play. What else we've got here? So lots of adverts, lots of interesting stuff. You've got Space Master, Iron Crown Enterprises, science fiction role-playing game, the science fiction role-playing counterpart to Rolemaster, different manufacturers of miniatures and so on, like Standard Games there, who really did a great line in combat games like Siege and Cry Havoc and so on. Extensive letters page with lovely little joke, essentially watermark, sort of like postage stamps there for your letters. And there we have a classified section, quite extensive at the time. We've got an advert for Ghostbusters from West End Games, a really innovative role-playing game, introduced the concept of dice pools, took the idea of humour and just of the films and bringing it into play, more adverts for different stores and locations and manufacturers of small things, which really pointed to sort of like the vibrancy of the hobby back in the day. And lastly, we have the Daleks and miniature Cybermen figures manufactured by Citadel Miniatures. It's not often remembered they did do licensed miniatures at the time, often forgotten. And here we have last advert for the version of RuneQuest 3 published by Games Workshop, based upon the Avalon Hill version. Basically it's a little bit more stripped down and broken up into different books. But yeah, that is White Dwarf issue 89. Lots of good stuff in here, lots of stuff to read and really enjoy, I think. Not necessarily White Dwarf at its, at its best, but then again, its best is subjective. It's really when you really kind of started reading it, when you felt it really started getting good. But this is definitely basically a couple of years or so before the change, with about issue 100 or so, where it became very much a house organ for Games Workshop and Citadel Miniatures. That change is yet to come. Another good read. Anyway, thanks for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this unboxing, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with where is it gone? With a package containing typically a book or game or role-playing game. In this case, a role-playing game magazine from 1987, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.